Introducing our speaker, Prasant Jain, entrepreneur, author, technology and wellness leader. His journey spans India's early internet era, enterprise cloud, wellness, and the evolving relationship between technology and human well-being. He is the author of Vitamin G, Gratitude, a book widely regarded as transformative for its practical approach to inner balance and perspective in modern life. TEDx at Tulas International School.
The year was 1999, long ago, so long ago. When the internet began in 1995 to 2002 was considered as the dot-com era. So I'm going to tell you a story about that. Today, success is measured in terms of whether you are a unicorn, how many page views you have, how many virality you have reached, how many followers you have. And that's considered as a metric of success. In my dot-com era, the success metrics were different. Metrics always change. Let me tell you what the metrics were. Do you realize the picture is very different from me? That's my dot-com picture. I'll show you the AI picture later. So in 1999, I sold my company, indiadomain.com, for about $1 million US, which was for that time considered a unicorn in today's age. I was on the cover of Economic Times. I made headlines in that. My face was inside India Today magazine. So that was what was success considered then. How many of you have seen Sacred Games? You know Nawazuddin Siddiqui playing Ganesh Gayatunde, right? Ganesh Gayatunde says, "Apan ko lagta tha apan hi Bhagwan hai." That's exactly what I felt then. I thought I was in the top of my game. I thought I was top of the world. And you know, success gives you that illusion of control. So I thought I was in control. You know what happens to Ganesh Gayatunde after that? Some of you remember. Yeah, cut to 5 years later, I was on a hospital bed. I was on antidepressant for about 3 years of my life. I was bankrupt. I'd lost all my relationships. I had no identity. I'd built my identity on my success of my ventures, etc. So I had no identity at that time, and whatever I thought I had arrived had gone. So this was the dot-com era. And it's very similar today to today's AI era, right? Dot-com era and today's AI age have too many similarities. So I'll talk to you about what happened during the dot-com era so that if there's some things that we have ignored from that, maybe there are some lessons that we can learn, some patterns that we can observe. So I was what was called the casualty of the dot-com era. I was called as a casualty because it broke us. And I think in 1995, the NASDAQ had risen about 6 to 7 times in 5-6 years. Valuations were crazy. Everybody was talking in millions of dollars only. And compared to today's world, it was a very similar bubble that happened. Too much was happening too fast, right? Alvin Toffler, one of the futurists of that time, called it as future shock. He had a word for it. He said future shock, which means that humans can't adapt fast enough, right? We can't adapt to the pace of technology. And after that, after the dot-com has crashed, it took us about 10 years, from 2005 to 2015, for the internet to become a part of our lives and for it to be accepted. Why? Because human takes a long time to adapt, right? And the dot-com era was an era which brought the internet to us. All of you saw statistics on how fast the first 50 million users came, right? In the dot-com era, it took us years, 10, 15 years. Today, it's compressed into weeks. So what we learned, we could learn at our pace. But what you will learn, very short compressed timeline. So the same problems that we faced at that time we had trust issues. We used to call it, we were very scared to enter our credit card numbers into any of the portals. We used to call them portals at that time, right? So these portals are today, by the way, called platforms. What you use as Facebook. Facebook was also our generation, I think. Gen AI, it's more Instagram, right? So all of these technologies, if you look, they all grew out of the dot-com era. So I would like to talk to you about how these two are similar, right? So what happened to my life we went on what is called the peak of inflated expectations, which means when technology comes, everybody assumes this is going to change the world. This is going to change everything as we know it. And everybody gets on the boat, then what happens? Expectations come down. You get disillusionment, like I got. I was not a single casualty of the dot-com era. There were many like me that suffered, many that lost their mental balance, their physical balance, and it took us years to come out of that. Why? Because we were adapting too fast. Human biology is not made for that. So AI age is the same dot-com era, but at 10x speed, or maybe 100x speed. Exponential infinity is how we are raising, right? So the AI age is putting us in a spot where unless your adaptation is also fast, we will not succeed, right? Today our systems decide our self-worth. We don't decide what's our worth, right? Outside metrics decide what's our worth. Platform decides how we will look, what is the metric of success, how should we compare ourselves, what should we learn, what should we not learn, right? This is where we are. There's a crisis of meaning. My parents' generation, they used to believe their skill, their work defined them. We believed our designation defined us. I wanted to be a founder, I wanted to be a CEO, I wanted to be seen by the world as a successful person, right? So outside metrics, as long as you let the world decide those metrics for you, you will always be downloading your self-worth. You will not be able to take your self-worth from yourself. Self-worth is something that comes from within. So there is a crisis of meaning, and the time shortage has meant that even relationships today, my parents' generation used to feel marriage was a long-lasting saat janam, I don't know, maybe a couple of eons or so. Today you believe in nano situationships, banana ships, I don't even know some of those ships. So this era has called what I call as momentum anxiety. This is the anxiety that comes from momentum, which is the speed at which technology increases. Shall I make you anxious right now? Separate yourself from your phone. Take your phone away for a few minutes and you'll realize what that anxiety is. The anxiety of not being in touch, I'm late, I'm broken. We are never enough. For this age, this feels like he was talking about FOMO. FOMO, everywhere there's decision fatigue. In fact, the decision fatigue is so high that the top technology superheroes of this generation, they all wear a uniform. You know why? Because they don't want to decide and take a decision on what to wear for the day. So every day wear the same thing, no decision fatigue, right? So you will notice all the top CEOs of this generation wanting to do that, right? But you are born inside the internet. Most of this generation has already known how to scroll from their childhood. That's why today you scroll endlessly. Doom scrolling it's called, right? You just scroll and you can't take a decision, right? I've seen people go on Netflix, search, entire dinner over, still haven't decided what to do. Why? Because too many choices. I come from a traditional Marwadi family where my grandfather used to be in the jewelry business and all. When he used to sell jewelry, if you show 3 pieces, he used to take away the last piece. Which one shall I remove? So that there's only 2 choices you need to make. Which one shall I remove? That's the choice. And today what's the choice? Infinite choices. And hence, we are not able to decide. If you remember that I was a tiny drop in that ocean of the wave that came. What was the wave? The dot-com wave, remember? I said it goes up, peak of expectations, comes out as disillusionment, right? Afterwards, I learned this was called the Gartner hype cycle. The Gartner hype cycle decides how we look at technology, right? Technology from the printing press to automobiles, right? We have been on this journey before. Humanity has been on this journey many times before. And every time a new technology comes, it takes time for us to adapt, right? For example, if you're trying to learn how to drive a vehicle, you realize that the first time the expectations are very high. You say, oh, this is going to give me a great life. This is going to make sure that I meet all my social connections. I can go anywhere. The freedom is amazing. Then what happens? You learn it, you fall down the bike or the vehicle, you get bruises, right? You realize that it's not as easy. After a while you decide, okay, it's only good enough to go, mom will tell me to go get groceries, etc. So you say, no. This is not as much freedom as I want. Some responsibility comes into us, right? And then slowly over a period of time, we discover that even systems we have to learn, right? You have to learn what's a license. You have to learn what's insurance so that you don't hurt anybody. So even the systems you have to learn. And this is the same technology process that we go. When electricity was discovered, what do you think everybody thought? It said it will take away all the jobs of the people who used to light the lamps. Right? So every generation thinks that the next technology will take away from us something that is there already. But that's just adoption. Humans have to learn how to adapt. If we don't adapt, we don't survive. And we have survived for this many generations. We have survived electricity, automobiles, right? When the first automobiles were bought, they thought it will take away all the jobs of the horse. The horses, the ones who used to drive the horses and all that, the charioteers and all that. Why? Because every new technology change comes with that. And this is called the Gartner hype cycle. So I was a dot in the wave. The wave slowly becomes smaller and smaller, right? How does it become smaller and smaller? Because you learn. You say, okay, I have to adapt, I have to keep my balance like this. I have to understand. And after a while, you come to what is called the slope of enlightenment, which means you realize that, okay, this is not as great as it sounds, but I can make some changes, and then I can drive some little bit, and I can, go this many distances or whatever. You come to plateau productivity. This is called the Gartner hype cycle, which is there are waves, and each wave gets subsequently smaller till humanity learns to adapt it. How did we do it in the dot-com generation? From 2005 to 2015, we were creating the infrastructure. Even if you look at Amazon, etc., what were they doing? They were a bookstore. They were finding out how to do payment gateways. They were figuring out how to do the logistics. They were figuring out how to make sure that servers can accommodate that much of data and speed. It took us 15 years. The reason I put this picture is because 12 years back, I was building one of the largest data centers of India in Navi Mumbai. And I came here to do a talk on this very stage. So I wanted to keep that picture so that I could remember that day. It was a very boring job to build data centers for us. Not as exciting as building dot-coms, earning a lot of money, getting a lot of page views. Page views was what was considered great then. So the first big wave that it comes generally excites us a lot, right? Then our excitement dampens, right? The collapse isn't of technology. The collapse is generally of our nervous system. Because the first thing that collapses is how humans adapt to it. It takes time for us to adapt. And this adaptation generally comes in waves and patterns that become smaller and smaller. The first phase is generally chaos, right? And then tech becomes invisible. Today it's invisible, right? When you use technology, do you think email is a big deal? My first email ID was as a student in the US in 1997, and I thought it was a big deal because I had a email ID, nobody else had it. I had a .com after my name, Prasant.com, and I thought it was a big deal. Right? So these things are exciting in the beginning. Then as the slope of enlightenment becomes easier and easier, we learn and we adapt. And the .com taught us that we have to adapt at multiple levels, right? Not just at one level. If you adapt only at your biology level, we don't succeed. If we adapt at the individual level, we don't succeed. Only when we adapt at the collective level, we succeed. That's why you notice that many of these technologies, from cryptocurrencies to newer AI tools, etc., we don't know what are the boundaries of those. Legislation always takes time to catch up. So it's also a collective thing that has to be done. It's not that today a tool is released, you get so many users and it's okay. It still takes time for our systems, our institutions, our culture to adapt. So this adaptation time is also decided by what? It's decided by our biology. Why is our biology so important on this? Because software can go fast. Our biology cannot go so fast. Do we all need daily at least 6 to 8 hours? Some people need 4 also. But 6 to 8 hours sleep is required. Right? AI never switches off. So the problem that happens is that our brains get overloaded. And this is what causes us anxiety. This is what causes us FOMO. This is what causes us dopamine addiction. Why is our attention so fragmented today? Because too many things requiring too much attention and we cannot give it that time. What do these platforms demand from us? They demand our money, they demand our time, they demand our attention, right? Because also we are in a gig economy, which means that your work also will take you towards the internet scrolling, all of that, right? So you're connected to your phone, and that is what the anxiety is about. This attention that's fragmented is what damages our nervous system, because we are not equipped to handle it. Will we ever be equipped to handle it? Of course we will be, but it takes evolution a couple of generations, right? Evolution does not happen in a day or two, right? So that evolution is what decides how we will learn. And every time a new pattern comes up, we have to learn a new way to take care of our attention. So the biological solution is very simple. Biology needs time. Biology needs inner alignment. For me, the biological alignment came through something called looking at myself and looking at what I was grateful for. Because for me, gratitude led to happiness. In our generation, transformation was written through books. So I wrote a book about it called Vitamin G Gratitude. I can't give you a 3-hour podcast version, but I'll give you a chota wala, tiny Reels version. The Reels version is that we have to develop resilience. If we don't have resilience, like in Corona, what did you have to develop? Immunity, right? Same way, resilience is what can help us cope with these changes, right? But if we are only coping with these changes and the world does not adapt, we still lag behind, because that will call our nervous system to break down, right? Biology always collects its bill. Biology ka bill kabhi bhi dena padta hai, boss. So biology will decide for us what we will do. But what can we do to save that biology? For the dot-com generation, we were told, do yoga, do meditation, do mindfulness. These were the 3 things that were coming to the dot-commers, saying, if you do this, you will do. For you, what's there? For you, your attention is the most important currency that you can give. So discernment in terms of what you do. Like somebody else said, Vivek. The discernment to decide whether this requires my attention, does this deserve my attention? Does this deserve my attention? Can I say no to it? Can I say no to this? Can I say I will not succumb to this pressure? If somebody else is posting a picture of something, I don't have to post something. If somebody is getting so many views, maybe I don't have to get them. So AI is not asking us to be smart. It's asking us to remember who we are. Thank you.